Hello and welcome to Five Stones Podcast. And here we are. Well, actually, we're here, but we're not together. We're doing something a little different this way and trying it remotely. As you can see, the two gentlemen joining us, the other hosts are somewhere else. So, gentlemen, how are you today?
Good morning.
Doing great.
I am Colin Hedegaard, the Great Dane, owner
Hi.
of Five Stones Mortgage.
I'm Joe Trester, the real estate advocate, owner of nothing.
So today we are actually not in the same normal studio. I'm actually in the basement of my compound in a deserted island so that I can be left alone. Where are you gentlemen hanging out today?
Undisclosed office location.
I will disclose that I am sitting in the Cigar Club of Indiana because it's a wonderful place to be able to come and work during the day, have a nice cigar, and get a few things done.
Doesn't that place also have like 3 or 4 different wireless systems for people to work on?
Oh, easily. I think we could probably get 25 or 30 people in here working on a laptop if they really wanted to. Plenty of space. It's very comfortable.
So shameless plug for cigarclubofIndiana.com.
Yeah, absolutely.
.com.
Check it out.
Obscene profit timeout.
Yeah. So here we are, the first of the year. You know, we had taken off for the Christmas holiday and then the New Year holiday. So we're actually back once again working. And the first of the year, hopefully, is going to bring about some new promises with the market, the financial market, and the real estate market, and the business market as a whole. I know that I am seeing a lot more businesses on for sale and have reviewed a lot more. What are you guys seeing from the real estate and finance areas?
We're seeing an uptick in activity just in the last week or two. I think rates kind of broke down into the sixes, and seems to be an uptick of people starting to look, and maybe it's the I don't know. Maybe they've been sitting around thinking about it for a couple of years, and now it's time. Little uptick for us.
I think there's a little uptick in real estate as well, but I think it's less about factors changing so much and people just kind of getting used to this new normal. I mean, I think we went through a shock of how crazy things were going into the COVID setting and how all of that went. And then we had another shock to the system when that bottom fell out and interest rates went up and no one wanted to do anything. I think people now just in general are tired of waiting, tired of sitting exactly where they are, and they're starting to just be getting a little more used to the idea of, I'm going to have to pay a little more. I don't really care. I want to go where I want to go. And people are starting to.
You mentioned reading something about interest rates that they actually aren't going to be dropping like the way they came up. They're not going to drop out of the sky.
And if I will honestly tell you, if anyone truly believed that they were going to drop as quickly as they went up, we need to have a whole different conversation. But I think what we're going to see, and I was reading a study this morning before I came into work, there are a lot of people that started talking about, interest rates are going to drop, incrementally throughout the entire year of 2024. I'm not sure that we're really going to see that. I do think we are going to see some stability. I mean, I don't think we're going up. But there isn't anything that is telling me that we're magically going to drop just tons as we go. Maybe we'll come down another 0.25% before the end of the year, but that'll probably be politically driven because it's an election year.
Isn't it kind of like gas prices? It takes, 3 or 4 weeks for it to drop 20 cents, and then boom, it shoots up in, one day, 45 cents back to where it was. So I don't think you're going to see a drop like Colin and Joe are saying. It's not going to drop 3 points like it jumped 3 points.
I don't think the Federal Reserve has actually indicated they're going to lower rates. I think it's the talking heads on MSNBC and everywhere that are hoping that's true. And what they're going to do is they're going to have to react, excuse me, to data that rolls out. And then they'll decide, okay, the economy's crap. We need to do something to motivate it. And they'll start to put in a plan to lower rates to stimulate things. But I think the crap is just now starting to be evident in data. I was watching something yesterday, and it was data from FedEx, and it seems innocuous data, but they were talking about how much tonnage they ship. And a year ago, in December, and maybe it was fourth quarter or December, I don't remember, it was 31 million pounds or million tons of stuff they shipped. This year in December, in 2023, December last month, was 21,000 pounds, which is a 1/3 drop in stuff. And that was with a bump for the holidays. So overall, people are not spending money like they were just a year ago, which is a big sign that they're holding on to money. They're scared. They're concerned about losing jobs. Savings is getting burned up.
I think it's deeper than that. I mean, I don't think they're holding on to money. I don't think they have any money. I mean, everything has cost so much more just to live. You know, when your grocery bill has doubled over the course of the last 18 months and gas prices have gone up and car payments have gone up and everything else, it isn't a matter of I want to hold on to money. It's a matter of I have no money. So, I mean, that's why spending is down. You have to have it to spend it. And when you have none, you can't buy things. So, and you can see that in the consumer debt index. I mean, it's the highest it's ever been, according to the financial guy that comes in here to the cigar club. I mean, he's talking about it. You know, people are further in debt than they have ever been.
Yeah,
There was a point where we had started to stem that tide, and it was coming down 2, 3,
the amount of credit, haven't we increased the consumer's amount of credit? Actually, what was it, Colin? Topped $1 billion.
$1 trillion, and I think credit card debt reached $1 trillion last quarter. Who knows where it'll be? Data is going to roll out in the next week or two about fourth quarter, and I think it's going to be pretty bad news. I think it's going to be rough.
You would be seeing that in applications, I would think. I would think that you would, you know, people that are applying to get loans, you're probably seeing a debt to income ratio that's skewed a little bit because there's more debts than there were just a few years ago.
I think we talked about this last week, that one of the big money houses, and I don't know if it was Chase or one of the big financial players, said normally they look for a housing expense for a household to be at 30%. And last quarter it was 39%. The average housing expense for families across the country. That's danger zone. You know, I mean, we can approve people up to 40 or 45% their house payment, but imagine 40% of your gross income going towards your housing expense. That doesn't count your cars, your utilities, doesn't count all that other stuff. That's hard to imagine that much of your income being pointed towards just your primary residence.
So add on top of that another, 20% to live, or 30. You know, you're at 70 cents on every dollar.
There's nothing left.
Joe's saying that.
This is why spending is down.
But
yeah, I think people are using their credit cards just to try to maintain. Some people are probably using them because they have to pay utility bills and stuff. But that party doesn't last forever. You've got a limit on your card.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to have a bad year economically speaking. I think they're going to have to look at lowering rates, but I don't know that it'll be real fast. They'll react to data.
Well, one of the things that the Fed did say, and I think this is what Colin was touching on, and this to me is what attorneys speak. They said that they weren't going to increase the rates. That does not mean they are going to decrease them. You know, a lot of people read into that. Oh, the Fed said they're going to lower rates. Now, that's not what the Fed said. The Fed said that there most likely would not be a rate increase this year.
Well, I mean, right now, our economy is not getting any better than it was. Inflation is somewhere around 4 to 4.5%, and the Fed said that they want it to be at 2% before they would think about, really significantly lowering things. So if you look at it from that perspective, we're nowhere near the point that they said they wanted to be at before lowering became something that they did on a regular basis.
So just to mix it up a little bit so the viewers out there aren't tuning us out, I'm smoking the my famous same cigar that I always
The New World again?
roll. So what are you guys enjoying where you're at?
La Flor Dominican.
I
Double
am
Maduro.
currently smoking the Brick, and this is one we've talked about before.
Oh,
The value for a stick like this, I mean, this is a rather large cigar, and it was all at $5, and it smokes like a $10 cigar. So
I think the Brick for the price is probably one of the best cigars out there. If you're a new cigar smoker or you're thinking about it, it is simply called Brick. And you go into your local cigar store and ask for the Brick. It's probably the best cigar. Like Joe said, it's around $4.99, $5.50, somewhere around in there, but is way better than the price indicates.
for me, this is like a mid 2000s Impala. It's not sexy, it's not wonderful, but it really gets the job done, and it's a solid product.
You could
What's
enjoy
the-
driving an Impala.
What's the price range on your cigar, Colin?
This is a giant cigar. These are about $13, but it's like two cigars. It's a double Maduro, but it's gigantic. So I'll smoke it for a couple hours, put the other half down, have lunch, whatever, do whatever, and then I can pick it back up. And
He can't even get it on screen. It's so big.
yeah, it touches both sides.
Yeah. This is right at $9. This is about a $9 cigar. It is my favorite cigar. I very seldom stray from that cigar unless it's given to me. I used to do the Brick a lot. I liked them until I found the New World. So those are three ranges of cigars there.
Well, you're a strange cigar person. You are monogamous to cigars, and that is very unusual in the industry.
You know, I don't think I would say that people that are true cigar smokers, and I would classify that as anybody that's doing 3 a day or more, probably tends to be monogamous.
Yeah,
You know,
probably.
I think beginning cigar guys, while you're trying to find your palate or trying to find what your price range, can kind of jump around a lot. But I think anybody that routinely smokes cigars probably has. Well, I know your father very well.
Yeah,
You know, he's the same way. The money guy you were just talking about, same way.
I've got 3 that I go to. I've got one for a budget. I've got one that I smoke all the time, and then I've got one where I'm like, I've got $25 I can burn. I'm going to have a really good one, and that's pretty much the range.
You know, it's funny. We've all smoked that Placentia cigar.
Mhm.
That's like $25. It is a very good cigar. I don't think it's 2.5 times the cigar the
No.
one I'm smoking is, but the price is. So I guess what I'm saying is guys like me that have been 15 years, I still don't see the value in that $22 to $30 range, which there are a lot of cigars in that price range. One is I don't think it doesn't escalate. It's not proportional. You know, $10 cigar, a $20 cigar is not twice as good, in my opinion.
I would agree with that. I very much enjoy $8 and $10 cigars, even the $5 Brick.
Yeah.
Well, speaking as someone that I actually worked in a local cigar shop for 2 or 3 years, it comes down to construction. I think a lot of times the price point is more about the construction and less about the taste of what's going on. And it's not across the board that way, but in general, when you spend a little bit more, typically you're able to smoke that thing down to almost nothing. You get a $3-4 cigar. Most of the time it's canoeing, it's blowing up, and then there's a lot in between. I've always said there's a big jump between a $5 cigar and a $7 cigar, and then the jumps are very minimal from $7 up.
Yeah.
There's also typically a discount if you buy a box. So, just a value proposition. If you're going to smoke a lot, you get a little bit of a break when you buy in bulk.
Well, if you've got the ability to take care of the cigar, I mean, like a humidor at home, I don't think there would be any reason you shouldn't buy a box of cigars. I mean, you're going to spend the money. If you spend it all at one time,
the speed in which you go through them tends to
well,
increase the more of them you have.
which
I've
reminds
got
me,
20 of these. I can
I
keep
think
smoking.
I have to get some today.
That's true. So the question begets on the financial thing. What can we do to help things?
Buy more cigars.
Well, I'm talking about as far as
I think it depends on what you
control the
consider
economy.
help.
I mean, the only thing I can think of is vote for conservatives. 2024.
Well, I was going to say, you wonder how much this is going to change the closer we get to an election year, because it seems apparent to me, being a little older, that it doesn't matter who's in office. The closer you get to election, things tend to get better because the people that are in office want to say, hey, look what I've done, and be current. And the people that are coming in the office are like, hey, the economy's getting good and I can make it better.
Well, I will tell you this. Another thing that I read this morning, and this is for people out there that don't think there's a change coming. U-Haul just gave their statistics for last year. There are only 2 states in the union where one-way rentals increased and stayed up.
New York and California.
California.
There we go.
I'm assuming
Indiana
that
is
means
actually
out,
in the
one way
third.
out,
Yeah, one
not
way
one
out.
way in.
No, we're talking one way out. Indiana is actually in the bottom third of one way out as of last year. So there's a lot of places where people aren't leaving, with the exception of those 2. And if that doesn't tell you something, now I understand that doesn't take into account the fact that it's 2 giant population centers. So there are more people there. So statistically, there's going to be more people going. But
Well, moving from California to Indiana helps you in the short term, but in the long term, as a country, if we don't gain control of government spending, we are going to have tremendous inflation problems ongoing forever. So we need to consider long term, how are we going to approach things? How are we going to handle 34 trillion in debt? How are we going to service this debt if we're not going to knock it down? And all these things, obviously one party is a slightly better, but they aren't all stars.
none of them are all stars
Yeah,
because we created that aristocracy.
So here's a question that I think the consumer would ask. And Colin, you're a lot better on the constitutional law or constitutional issues. When's America just going to file bankruptcy and wipe all that debt out?
We've often said in private that a debt is only a debt if you intend to repay it.
Right.
But I think that they will inflate us out of it as their goal. But the problem is, in the meantime, people are going to suffer to a level they won't tolerate it. I mean, how the groceries that my family bought when we first got married, a cart full of the stuff that we eat was less than $100. And then midway through our marriage, it was $160. Now it's $250 or $300 for the same stuff. The only difference is the bag is smaller, but it costs more. And
yeah,
we
went the other day, and now there's just my wife and I. We are now empty nesters with all the children. I think we carried out like $75 in a bag.
Oh yeah, 4 bags of groceries is $75. No problem there.
Wow, I think this was just one. It might have been 2. I don't know. She carried it. I made her carry. No.
Well, example of the incumbent government trying to affect things is last year we produced more oil than ever in all of history. The United States did. And that is, I'm sure, an effort to keep gas prices down. Inflation is highly affected by gas prices. So they are trying to shine up the turd by pumping as much oil as they can, but trying to make things look as good as they can for their guys so they can make a case that the economics of things is good. But everybody knows differently. And if you're out in the world right now talking to people, you know that it is not.
Well,
Very obvious. I mean, affordability. I did a mortgage minute this morning, first one of the year. Affordability is becoming a serious problem, particularly in housing. Average family can't buy an average house. We've been talking about this for 2 years, and now we're here. And the average family is having a hard time with $3,000 mortgage payments on an entry-level house. I don't know. I don't
well,
think anything's going to fix. Maybe if there was a candidate that wasn't a typical politician, he could do something about this.
there's a couple of things that scare me, and the first one right now that scares me the most are the parallels between this and the Great Depression. And really, the only thing that pulled this country out of the Great Depression, it wasn't policy, it wasn't anything else. It was going to war. And because war, as awful and as brutal as it is a profit center for a country because they're paying people to do things, they're generating things, and everyone goes to work for that machine. So when we look at what's going on in the Middle East and some other things, my big fear is we're going to get pulled into another giant war, not necessarily over political ideology, but because we're out of money and we got to do something to create that money, because that's how we've gotten out of it in the past.
So let me get this straight, Joe. You say we're going to go to war because we need money.
Yeah, I think that's what'll happen. And when I say we need money, it's people within the country, consumers need money. We're seeing that we have no money. So when we go to war and we have to build tanks and we have to build weapons and we have to build planes and we have to build drones now and rockets and everything else, that requires people to do that, and that requires jobs, and that gets them paid. And it is paying us with our own money, but that's how they brought down inflation and everything during the Great Depression. That's how we got out of it. If World War II had not occurred, we never would have come out of that financial.
Well, that's a good point, and I don't want to cut you off, but we have reached the threshold of our time limit. We have all agreed that we were going to not try and drone on forever and with this good topic. So that actually leads us to part number 2, which is going to be continued. So what I want you guys out there to do is click on the subscribe button, click on the bell. That screen's now small. Click on the bell for us so that you can actually see part 2 of this, and we'll continue talking about this uplifting situation. Guys, I want to thank you for coming and invite you back, and we'll see you again next time, right?
Absolutely.
Can't wait.
See you later.
See ya. Have a good one. Harumph.